The story begins with a guy standing in front of an ATM, trying his credit cards, but the machine keeps rejecting them. After a few moments, we see a pile of cards on the ground, and finally, one of his cards is accepted. He leaves, gets in a car, and the driver asks him where he's going. He says, the financial district. The scene changes quickly, and a young guy is holding a credit card, saying that money is the most valuable thing. Then a girl named Q appears, and he asks her what she thinks about money. She says the most important thing is having a full stomach, but he says that when your status changes, your perspective on life changes too. Things move on, and the young guy meets a mysterious man named Masakaki, who tells him that many people come to this world but only a few succeed. He calls him Mikuni and apologizes, saying it's time. Mikuni asks him about the deal that's supposed to be tomorrow, but Masakaki tells him they need to move a little further, reminding him that rules are rules. Mikuni asks him about the opponent he'll be facing, and a man quickly appears. Mikuni asks him if it's his first time, and when he says yes, he warns him that he doesn't go easy on beginners. Mikuni then moves his card left and right, and suddenly his asset appears. After that, the game begins, and Mikuni tells the man that if he wanted to gamble, there are better places for it, but he says he doesn't want to gamble. All he wants is to get as much money as possible. The scene shifts, and at Hisaya University of Economics, there's a guy named Kimimaro and a girl named Hanabi. Hanabi asks Kimimaro why he's studying for the civil service exam now, even though he just started his studies. He says that if he doesn't start now, he won't have enough time, and practical experience is the most important thing. After that, his two friends come, and one of them asks him if he's going to the party tomorrow, but he refuses, saying he has work. When Hanabi is asked, she says she's not sure either. By then, Kimimaro has finished eating, so he leaves. Hanabi calls after him because he forgot his notebook, but he doesn't answer and quickly disappears. One of his friends says he's a hard worker. The scene changes again, and Kimimaro is sitting on the train, and the loudspeaker is telling passengers to hold on to the handles. After that, it's announced that the train will arrive at platform 3, and everyone should stay behind the yellow line. The scene changes again, and someone tells Kimimaro that there's competition for civil service jobs these days. He responds with a surprised question. Who wants to work in the private sector these days? The guy tells him that life is boring these days. Kimimaro replies that he dreams of a guaranteed salary, a house, a safe garden, and a quiet life with a wife and children. The man tells him that his dream is beautiful, better than nothing. The scene changes quickly, and Kimimaro is at his job. Someone tells him that he's surprised he can handle 2 jobs. Kimimaro replies that his employers wouldn't agree to give him overtime, and that doing 2 jobs is a small price to pay to be able to feed his family. Then his friend Hanabi visits him at work and gives him a notebook, emphasizing that there's an exam tomorrow, so she wrote down notes for all the subjects. If he can study them all night, everything will be fine. When he apologized to her for the trouble he caused by contacting her, she asked him to get a phone so she could communicate with him faster. He told her he didn't have enough money, but she told him he just didn't want to spend. He said he wanted to make something of himself. She asked him if he was jealous because she got into college with her father's money, but he assured her that he didn't mean that. When he offered her a drink as a thank you, she apologized, saying she was going out with her boyfriend. After that, Kimimaro returned to his apartment, and there was a knock on the door. When he opened it, he found a man who introduced himself as Masakaki from the commercial department of Midas Bank, and he came to talk to him about the loan. Kimimaro brushed him off and closed the door in his face, but he was surprised to find him standing behind him, asking if he didn't want to get higher returns on his business. He kicked him out again and closed the door behind him. Soon, Kimimaro found himself in a parallel world, and Masakaki told him to study as much as he wanted and he would come back when he was finished. Yesterday, they had a vacancy for an entree in the financial district, and he was randomly selected for this position. He is the 19-year-old scholarship student at Hisaya University of Economics. He quickly assured him that the financial district is open to everyone and doesn't require special skills, so he might be surprised at first, but there's no need to be afraid, he'll get used to it. While Kimimaro was studying for the exam, Masakaki wouldn't stop talking. Masakaki asked him why he was so indifferent. He told him that he dragged him into a strange world. He replied that if he hadn't, he wouldn't have believed him. He asked him what he wanted him to believe. He said, his selection as an entree. He asked him what that meant. He told him it was a title for someone who trades or makes a deal. Kimimaro asked him to simplify it further. He replied that they want to take care of his future. In short, they will lend him money, and in return, they want him to use this money in the financial district. Kimimaro asked him what he meant by taking care of his future. He told him that they would take care of his hopes and potential, but Kimimaro replied that he didn't want suspicious money like that. Masakaki began to explain the privileges of the position. He would get a salary without needing a government job, and he wouldn't have to work 2 jobs. Suddenly, Kimimaro woke up and discovered that he had fallen asleep at his desk, and everything that had happened was just a dream. At the university, Hanabi asked him how his test went. He told her that she saved him. She told him to take care of himself more. She quickly talked to him about the party, and he said he would think about it. When he went to his job, there was an error in the account, but he was very honest and corrected the error. His elderly colleague told him that money is very important, and maybe he should have covered up the error and taken the money. Otherwise, he would end up like him, working in a store late at night at his age. The scene changed, and Masakaki began to appear to Kimimaro like his shadow, telling him that Hanabi was dating a rich friend, and he could also get money like him. Because of money, his father left him, and maybe he could look for his father if he had money. He took out an invitation to enter the financial district, saying, whoever accepts it has the right to enter without any exception, and withdraw from any ATM, but in return, they will take his future as collateral. The scene changed quickly, and Kimimaro got into the car next to Masakaki, and they drove to the financial district. When they arrived at the financial district, Kimimaro began to ask about some of the systems. Masakaki told him that these systems helped the businessman during the deal. Then he asked him to look above him and told him that there was a display of data for the deal competitions, in addition to the stock information. He, as a businessman, must make the deal once a week, participate in the party, in addition to his duty. The scene changes again, and one of the old businessmen says about Kimimaro that he is a new recruit, but he won't stay long because he doesn't have the look of an adventurer, and he bet on his failure. Soon, Masakaki stood with Kimimaro to guide him and introduce him to his opponent. At first, he asked him to use his card, and when he used it, a girl named Shu appeared to him. She told him that she was new to this, but let them do their best together. Soon, the opponent appeared and started attacking Kimimaro, and Mishu defended him and blocked the attack. Then she told him that apparently he doesn't realize what's happening, but he must protect himself, otherwise he will end up bankrupt. On the other hand, the other businessmen were watching the fight, and Kimimaro quickly surrendered, but Mishu punched him in the face, saying that if he was defeated, they would lose. He tried to convince her that if they told the opponent that they wanted to surrender, he would listen to them and stop chasing them, but she opposed him, saying that he would not listen to them. After that, Mishu was injured and lay on the ground. Kimimaro went to check on her, but she told him that she was fine. Suddenly, the opponent attacked her, but, using her supernatural power, she blocked him, saying that she would not lose. On the other side, there was a businessman telling Mikuni that this deal cannot be ignored if they want to get the information of the complex. There are times when the complete amateur can survive, and this is sometimes puzzling. Mikuni replied that he was very curious. The scene changed, and Kimimaro apologized to Mishu because she was injured because of him. She told him that businessmen don't usually worry about them, but he told her that it's natural for a person to worry when someone is injured. But she changed the course of the conversation, saying that his money decreases every time he receives a blow, but if he spends his money to get a successful attack, he will win. These are the rules. He replied that he doesn't understand these topics, but he wants her to teach him how to fight. At that moment, the opponent dropped something on Mishu and injured her. She asked Kimimaro to resist because the opponent will defeat them. He used his card and summoned the power of Scorched Earth, and soon he amazed everyone and defeated the opponent. Even Mishu was amazed by his ability. Masakaki congratulated him on his win, but then noticed Mashu was gone. He wondered what happened to her, and Masakaki assured him she was safe and he'd see her soon. Kimimaro collapsed, exhausted, and Masakaki said he'd send him home. Mikuni's associate remarked that Kimimaro was an impressive asset, as it had been a long time since anyone had won a deal despite being forced into it. The scene shifted, and Q told Mikuni she couldn't help but feel that Kimimaro's victory reminded her of him in the past. No one else had ever won a forced deal. He asked if she was implying he'd become like him, and she said she couldn't guess. Suddenly, Kimimaro woke up in his bed. Masakaki was standing over him, telling him that what he'd experienced wasn't a dream. Even though it was his first time, he'd done his best, and now he should enjoy his victory. Kimimaro freaked out, but Masakaki told him he'd come to pick him up next week, and his daily life wouldn't be affected. Finally, he could use his Midas card to talk to his asset. He used it and contacted Mashu, who told him he was strange, because she was just an asset, yet he worried about her injuries. She told him he could call her if he needed anything. Suddenly, Masakaki reappeared, asking him why he hadn't left yet. Kimimaro started asking how to get out of the financial district for good. Masakaki told him that if he went bankrupt, he'd leave forever, but there would be serious consequences for him in his world. He assured him he'd bring him plenty of deals. At the university cafeteria, Hanabi went to sit with Kimimaro, surprised that he wasn't studying in class. He told her he was a little tired. She asked him why he kept checking his bank account. He asked her, if you suddenly had 10 million in cash, how would you use it? She said she'd save it. You always need to save for emergencies. Just then, she saw a news report on her phone that the police had found a child strangled to death. At Peyton's company, someone speculated that the president was preparing for the downfall of Fox Macromana. He wondered if he intended to use it to put pressure on the rival company. The other replied that it was a matter of public affairs. The locals in the area were objecting, and they really needed to get the money moving. The first advised him not to get too personally invested. After all, it wasn't just Japan, the whole world was involved. The second told him not to worry about the amount invested, just to gather what he could. Eventually, the tide would turn and time would be on their side. The meeting ended, and someone appeared with information about Kimimaro, a second-year economics student at Heisei University, 19 years old, living a difficult life. The scene shifted quickly, and Kimimaro started using the black money from the Midas Bank in his daily life. But when he tried to give it to a customer, the customer got angry and told him it was dirty. When his elderly colleague intervened, the customer hit him. Mikuni then stepped in and resolved the situation. Afterward, they talked, and Kimimaro realized that he was also from the financial district. Mikuni told him to relax and learn how to spend Midas money. They had a discussion, during which Kimimaro said he just wanted a decent income and a modest life, not a lot of money. But Mikuni told him he was just trying to escape the game, and told him to focus on what he was doing. Each of them was there for a reason. A car sped along with a woman named Sato inside. She asked the driver to take her to the financial district. He told her that gambling wasn't suitable for women. She replied that she knew, but she was just going to watch. Gambling was more exciting than deals. She quickly passed through the gate to the financial district, saying it was the 51st time she'd crossed it, including 11 times for deals. She was just a beginner entrepreneur. The events indicate that the size of the financial districts is proportional to the size of the country's economy. The largest financial district among them is the Far East District. The scene shifted, and Sato appeared, asking George, her asset, to take her to watch the deal. The narrative explains that the city is full of many people, the most important of whom is the true controller of the city, Mikuni, and the young man who is trying to win. The future of the city will be determined by the deals, and this is what Sato felt. Kimimaro was suffering from insomnia, recalling Mikuni's words. Mikuni had told him that his escape from challenges was like his escape from his parents and had told him to recognize his own abilities. Until then, he would wait for him in the city. Events unfold, and someone says that the organization he works for is interested in uncovering the truth about the financial district, its purpose, and the impact of Midas money on the real world. They had obtained vague information about the financial district, mostly from clients who had been there, but they were nowhere near the truth. The organization had sent investigators to each district, and he was assigned to Tokyo. He was monitoring someone who moved freely within the financial district. The organization was most interested in Mikuni, and they had no idea about his primary job. He held many positions, making it impossible to know which one was real, but it was most likely that he worked as a consultant at the Ministry of Finance in the Financial Investment Department. The truth is, he's a despicable person who hides his influence over the government, financial organizations, and major corporations. Even mentioning his name is forbidden in the media. His face is unknown to the world, but he has made several investments in the financial district, and it's clear he's trying to invest Midas money in the real world. He wants to expose Mikuni's true face. The scene shifted. A policewoman went and knocked on the window of Sato's car, asking her why she had been stopped for so long. Sato asked her about Ozma. The policewoman told her that this had been her area for a while, and she didn't remember anyone with that name in her precinct. In a hotel room 2 months and 3 weeks ago, Sato received a call informing her that there was a deposit in her name. She started checking her account, saying she didn't remember receiving a bribe from anyone. Masakaki appeared and told her that she had become the first member of the organization to enter the financial district. In a village, Kimimaro sat in front of his aunt Kyoko, telling her he had some questions. She guessed he was going to ask about his parents and told him they had taken good care of him before they disappeared. He asked her if they had made any profits or left any records behind. She let him see all of her brother's belongings, asking him to put them back where he found them when he was finished. He quickly found a Midas notebook among the belongings. He then contacted Mashu and asked her where Masakaki was. She said he was definitely at the bank and suggested he come to the financial district. On the other side, in the financial district, there was a deal between Sato and an opponent. Sato quickly won using the power of her asset. When Kimimaro went to confront Masakaki and ask him about his father, Masakaki denied it. Suddenly, Mikuni came to him, telling him he was a bold person, because as soon as he entered the financial district, he caused trouble for Masakaki. He then took him to the information collector, who told him that his father was a great entrepreneur and obsessed with deals. One day, he lost a deal and went bankrupt, then committed suicide. The police couldn't identify him. He asked him what his father's personality was like. He replied that he didn't know much about him, they only spoke professionally, but he would do anything to get extra money, and he was nicknamed the Miser. He guessed that since he was his son, he must have had his luck in battles, but he advised him not to follow in his father's footsteps and to do his best, because life in that place was more important than the real world. The scene shifted, and Mikuni took him to his favorite place, saying he could see the whole city from there. When he asked him if he wanted to continue making deals, he replied that he didn't intend to, because he believed that if his father hadn't gotten involved in this place and lost his business, he wouldn't have abandoned him and his mother, and he would still be alive today. Mikuni wondered why his father was making all this money. He then confessed to him that his father was also making a lot of profits for himself. Then they faced financial hardship when he was young, and his little sister suffered from a serious illness. She could have been treated, but his father chose to spend the money on his company. As a result, his company flourished. He asked him if he knew what he did with the money he earned from the city. Before Kimimaro could answer, he answered himself, saying that he bought his father's company and took everything from him. The guy shot back that he'd do the same if his dad were still around. Mikuni told him that even if he didn't get the whole dad thing, parents have a huge impact on their kids, and that's why he was where he was today, even though he had a totally different personality. Kimimaro retorted that his mom and grandma deserved all the credit for shaping him. He had zero memories of his father. He pulled out his dad's notebook, saying it was all numbers, not a single word about him or his mom, so he really earned the title of cheapskate. Mikuni tried to reason with him, saying his dad probably just made money for his family, and his thinking was that his goal was always to make money for a good life and stability, whereas his dad made money for his family. Therefore, he was taking a worse path than his father, because the right way is to make money for others. He advised him to find someone to share the spending of that money with, and to keep making deals, and asked him to think about what he'd use his money for until the next deal. Somewhere, Sato was sitting, saying she was reporting everything about the city to the organization. A month ago, she asked them at headquarters about a way to stop the Midas money spreading in the real world, but she learned there was a chance of danger if the flow of that money was stopped in the real world. In the financial district, Kimimaro had a deal with an opponent named Ibara, but he quickly lost the deal and went bankrupt, because a big entrepreneur invested all his shares in front of him. So Masakaki told Ibara that he lost and should be punished, and thanked him for his short time with them. Kimimaro wondered about the shares, so Mashu told him that each asset has 10 shares, so he could sell 9 of them and get them back later. After that, Kimimaro met Mikuni and thanked him, because he invested his shares in him and thus saved him from loss. He asked him about the return, but he told him he guessed wrong. He was about to go bankrupt and wanted some of his assets shares. On the way back, Kimimaro started chatting with the driver, wondering about the loser's fate. He told him that the entrepreneur decides what happens. Somewhere, someone was saying that they controlled a third of the financial district, and if they exceeded 50%, they could control the entire financial district, but those people had to participate. Another replied that they would come to them themselves when they realized the necessity. A third said that the Starling Guild's ideas would change the entire financial district, and after a while, the guild itself would be the financial district. In the university cafeteria, Kimimaro heard news about a child's death due to a severe injury. Hanabi said that such news was becoming more frequent, but he wasn't listening. He spotted his teacher, who was his opponent last night. He ran towards him and apologized, because he didn't know things would end like this, and expressed his happiness that he was okay. His teacher offered to meet him at noon and accompany him somewhere. The scene changed, and the teacher recounted that the previous day, Masakaki came to him and offered to accompany him to the financial district. At first, he didn't know anything, but then he got excited. Kimimaro asked him if he needed money to take care of the children, but he replied that he wasn't interested in the children, unlike his wife, who didn't know how to economize, and because of her, he couldn't support his family with just his teaching money. The financial district was a solution to his problems, but he didn't know why he was making deals. He told him that he didn't know why he was fighting, but what he knew was that his father committed suicide because of it. The teacher understood his feelings, but he asked him, "Isn't it strange to give up their future in exchange for Midas money?" He didn't realize the meaning of this until after he went bankrupt. The scene suddenly changed, and the teacher's wife appeared, who he thought had given birth. As far as he believed, she was in her third child, but he was surprised that she told him that his teacher came back yesterday screaming and asking about his children, and he was very drunk. Then his teacher took him outside, saying that after his bankruptcy, everything suddenly changed, and his children were only living in his dreams. He curiously asked him what his father had lost. The fact of his existence was a mysterious luck, so he apologized to him for losing to him, but the teacher warned him against losing, because his life would turn upside down like his, and told him that it would have been better if he had joined Mikuni's Starling Guild. A large number of entrepreneurs had joined it. Maybe they don't win much, but they don't go bankrupt. The scene changed, and Kimimaro asked Shimada how many children he had. He told him that he had no children and no wife. He asked him about his desire to marry. He told him that there was no woman who would accept a man who was 60 years old and worked in a store at night. The scene changed, and another deal was held. Mikuni asked his opponent if he was sure about his decision not to join his guild, then apologized to him because he would win. The fight intensified, and Mikuni was about to lose and go bankrupt, but at the last moment he summoned Sleeping Beauty, and soon the opponent lost and he won. Kimimaro congratulated him, saying that he was strong and amazing, but he didn't want to be like him. In his opinion, the real gain was not winning too much, and not losing too much, so that the impact on the real world would be small. Mikuni quickly talked about his guild, saying that to reduce the effects on the real world, they win, but by a small margin. The most important thing to control deals is a good sense of calculation. The most important thing is to know the full adventure with one's own strength. The adventurer must measure the strength of the opponent, the wealth, knowledge, intelligence, and physical strength he has served him. The more he realizes what he has, the more accurate he is in measuring the capabilities of his opponent in deals. Assets are the most important strengths they have. Kimimaro begged him to tell him everything about assets. Mashu said, wasn't he supposed to ask her about that first? The scene changed, and she told him that their opponent was attacking randomly, so they would try to drain his energy and study his movements. The opponent said about Kimimaro, he's a member of the guild? That's annoying. While Kimimaro told Mashu that he thought they could win without resorting to this plan, he wanted to control the deal. She replied that he was really strange, but it didn't matter. She was just an asset, and without his orders, she couldn't even activate a micro. At that moment, one of the guild members said, it's time for their members' deposits. After that, everyone takes out their cards for deposit. Events unfold quickly, and Mikuni meets someone, and on the other side, Kimimaro was fighting his opponent. The fight intensified, and Kimimaro was soon injured, but it was only moments before Kimimaro won over his opponent, and then Mashu said, that's good. At the organization's vice president, Mikuni was meeting him to offer him a deal, which was to stop the budget cut, and if the state got more involved in debt, he would cover the state's financial deficit. After Mikuni left, the assistant asked the vice president about Mikuni. He told him that he was a man who would bear all the state's debts alone, and without him, they wouldn't be able to run the state. The assistant asked him what he would gain from helping them. He told him that he only wanted to help people. The scene changed, and Kimimaro appeared with the driver, and then the driver asked him how he felt after defeating his opponent. He felt that the table had turned on him, and he began to feel the bitterness of defeat himself. Kimimaro replied that his opponent's loss was simple and wouldn't cause a problem. The driver said that there was a person whose house burned down because of a simple loss. Events followed, and Kimimaro went to call his aunt, who told him that she would go to the hospital because she had appendicitis, and assured him not to come to visit her because she would be fine soon. At the university, Kimimaro was surprised that he failed a subject that rarely anyone fails, so his colleagues were surprised by his failure. Then he met Hanabi, and began to ask her frantically if anything had happened to her recently or if she had gotten sick, for example. She told him that on the contrary, her application to be a trainee teacher at her old school had been accepted. There were just many applications, so she was a little worried. The scene shifted, and the vice president was telling Sato, welcome back, safe and sound this week. They quickly got down to business. Birth rates and wealth were plummeting, while suicide and crime crime rates were skyrocketing. Sato grumbled, "This isn't sitting right with me." She asked about his plan, but he told her their organization wasn't global enough to move that fast. Still, he believed the intel she'd leaked was solid, so he'd feel bad not returning the favor. The action cuts to Kimimaro, who was chatting with Mashu while slurping down a bowl of ramen. Mashu was amazed to see him eating. She didn't even know what food was, since assets don't eat. She asked him to let her try some, and he promised she could next time. In the financial district, a new deal was starting between Kikuchi, who Mikuni had fought before, and a guy named Saizawa. Then, things started happening fast. Kimimaro heard on the news that the giant pharmaceutical company, Basho, was facing drug shortages and a massive financial deficit, all because of suspicions surrounding its president, Kikuchi, and criminal issues about product falsification. The company's sales were tanking. The scene changes, and Kimimaro is with his mentor, who tells him that if Basho goes bankrupt, the economy will lose 100 billion yen. With the company's collapse, 10,000 people would lose their jobs, and their futures would crumble. He then asked about his wife, and the mentor told him she was gone. He no longer knew if he was living in reality or a dream. Kimimaro quickly bought some intel on Basho from someone and then went to confront Mikuni with what he'd learned. 5 years ago, Faye acquired Basho Pharmaceuticals along with all its debt. This minimized the damage to the real world, especially since Mikuni was the owner, despite it being a foreign investment firm. When Mikuni heard this, he didn't deny anything. He admitted that he moved immediately to suppress the damage in the real world with the money he made with the guild. He asked him why he did it, and Mikuni explained there was no solution to prevent Midas money from circulating in their real world, not even eliminating the organization. Therefore, the Starling Guild was forced to minimize the damage of the deals as much as possible. They bought Japanese government bonds with Midas money to prevent their collapse. They had no choice but to balance the two worlds, especially since the real world had accepted Midas money and coexisted with it. Stopping it now would lead to problems. Kimimaro told him he understood they couldn't live without it, but he couldn't accept it. Meanwhile, someone was asking Mikuni why he was so interested in Kimimaro. He replied, "He's clueless when it comes to money, and he doesn't look like he's studying economics at a university. He's the opposite of people obsessed with money, who are uncontrollable." Elsewhere, Sato was at the organization, complaining about the recent reports because they were negative, and warning the president about the method used in the financial district because it would destroy humanity. However, he refused to stop Midas money, saying, "This isn't just my decision. There are things even bureaucrats can't fix." In the financial district, Kimimaro officially joined the guild, even though he was still training to balance deals. Kimimaro entered a new deal, and the asset started attacking him. Mashu helped him. Moments later, they defeated the asset, but they didn't know its user. The opponent quickly appeared, and they beat him. Afterward, Mashu started talking to Kimimaro about winning and losing, and how he felt when he won. Then they sat down to eat, but he seemed really strange. He started looking at her, saying that he was told that assets are the embodiment of the future. Then someone came and told him that he would face him in the next deal, and expressed his admiration for Mashu, saying that her horns were charming. Then he offered Kimimaro a deal, asking him to think about it and get back to him. When he left, Mashu said he was dangerous. As for Kimimaro, he was trying to remember where he had seen him before. He started gathering information about him and found out that he was recognized in many non-profit organizations. His activities began with donating vaccines to developing countries and spread to other regions. He also has a maternal instinct and cares for children, to the point that he is nicknamed the Prince of Volunteers. While Kimimaro was walking down the street, Sato suddenly kidnapped him, saying she just wanted to talk to him, and he could tell her where he wanted to go, except for the financial district. She offered to cooperate with him, saying that if they didn't destroy the financial district, the country's future would be in danger. After that, she gave him time to think about her offer and asked him to get back to her after he had thought about it. But he was confused. Who should he believe? Should he believe her or Mikuni? Suddenly, a car started chasing them, and they fled quickly. The scene shifted, and Kimimaro went to Sonoza to learn some information about the country's economy. Sonoza told him that the truth was that the large sums of money coming from the Midas Bank were destroying the balance of the economy, and the guild was responsible for controlling the deals from the inside and limiting their impact on reality. Every time they did that, the world shrank more. All that remained was a future without possibility, and there was no need for the present anymore. The scene shifted again, and Kimimaro was talking to his colleague at work, where they were discussing the issue of insurance. His colleague tells him that he has had an insurance policy since he was young, but things didn't go as planned. He started to envy him because he was still young and had a chance to think about his future. The scene changed quickly after that, and Kimimaro met with Mikuni, who asked him what Sonoza had asked him to do, saying that he had asked him the same request. Then he started talking to him about the future and the present, saying that if he lost the present, there would be no future. Kimimaro said Sonoza's sentence about the future to him. If there is a future without possibility, then there is no need for the present. He told him that Sonoza had said the same sentence to him, and that theory is the theory of a person who possesses power. He quickly talked to him about tomorrow's duel, and asked him to do whatever he wanted in it, saying that as long as he entered that city, he would not escape from it. Events unfolded rapidly, and Kimimaro appeared facing Sonoza. Then he told him that he thought he had considered his offer. The fight quickly began. Mashu said that Sonoza was very strong and had no weaknesses. Moments later, Mashu was severely injured, and she told him that there was only one way to win, which was a direct confrontation confrontation. Events unfolded rapidly, and Kimimaro went to apologize to Sonoza for his loss, but he told him that he was the one who was wrong because he apparently underestimated his abilities. Then he told him that he would move his office, and from now on he would rely on donations and organizing fundraising campaigns, because he could no longer provide the previous support to poor areas due to his loss. Then he gave him a gift to deliver to Mashu. Mikuni relives his past memories when his father told him that this money meant power, and that is what runs the world. Then he says that after graduating from university, he worked as a secretary for his father, who told him that he should just watch him and learn from him. As for the band he played for at university, it was disbanded, and then he lost interest in music and followed his father's instructions only. His father works on relationships and uses money under the table to strengthen his relationships, and that is his power. His father tried to instill all his experience in him because he is his heir, who will inherit everything after him. One day, he was visiting his sick sister in the hospital, and she told him that the job of a secretary did not suit him, and asked him about music and playing, saying that she used to love his music. After that, the doctor told him that her condition had worsened and was no longer stable. Although she could have been sent to America for treatment, his father's company began to collapse at the same time. And then he told him that he would not send Takako to America because he did not have any surplus money to waste. He told him that it was as if he was asking him to wait for her death. His father replied that it was not guaranteed that they would save her. He tried to convince him that they should at least try, but he refused. Mikuni blew up at him because he calls himself a father, yet he refuses to treat his daughter for the sake of the company. He told him that he's a businessman first, and a father second, with things to protect that are more important than his family. So he told him that he'd find the money himself to help his sister, but his father prevented him from leaving, assigned guards to him, and locked him in his room for days, because the company's reputation would be ruined if he went out looking for money. Until one day, his father's guard came in and told him that he would take him to visit his sister at the hospital. There, she told him that she was running out of time. That night, she lost consciousness and never woke up again. He immersed himself in his work, and all that connected him to his father was work, until Masakaki appeared to him and invited him to the financial district. In the present, Kimimaro and Mishu's relationship deepened. She would ask him if the future was what worried him, and he would reply that Mikuni said the future is important, but the present is also important. But he was curious to know if she had ever lived in the real world before. She replied that she was fine in this world and wouldn't get bored with a strange person around, but it wouldn't hurt to try. The scene quickly changed, and she found herself in the real world in front of a group of people eating. She told him that she wanted to eat a lot of dishes. There, Kimimaro met another opponent, and Kimimaro told him that he had recently joined the guild, but his opponent said that he couldn't stand joining it and it was better to stay alone. He said that he had already realized that after joining them, but the opponent replied that some people are very lucky, and he might be one of them. After that, he asked him, since the asset is the future of the entrepreneur, what is his future to turn into a monster? He told him that he didn't know, he hadn't thought about it. The scene changed again, and Kimimaro was walking on his way with Maishu following him. While he was thinking about what was happening, and his mind was confused about the guild, the asset, and others, Mishu was wondering why she liked being with him even though he sometimes made her angry. As for him, he was saying to himself that he didn't want to disappoint people with wrong decisions, and he didn't want anyone to get hurt because of him. It was difficult for him to decide which side he would be on, Sato's or Mikuni's. He quickly returned to the same opponent and punched him while he was angry. The scene changed, and he returned to the financial district with Mishu, who asked him why he hit the opponent. He told her that he just felt like he had to hit him because he was angry. The scene changed quickly, and Kimimaro was on his way to the financial district, but he noticed that there were only 3 skyscrapers instead of 5. When he asked the driver, he told him that he didn't care about such things. Kimimaro said to himself that the place had really changed since the last time he was there, but the driver advised him not to think too much, and it was better to convince himself that he was just imagining it. In the financial district, someone was saying that if the interest rate and stocks in Asian countries continued at this rate, the financial district of Southeast Asian countries would not last long and would go bankrupt. Someone wondered about the truth of countries disappearing when the financial district collapses, and another replied, this is true. Before the Lehman shock, there was the land of economic power, the Caribbean Republic. But after the collapse of the North American financial district, the country disappeared. The scene changed again, and Sato met someone who gave her information, and she quickly paid him. He asked her to pay him next time in dollars, not yuan. Then he told her that someone wanted to leave the guild, and she told him that if he could convince them, she would give him a lot of money. Then he asked her if she was still interested in Kimimaro, as he had some doubts about his asset. He felt like he had seen it before, and he also had some information about his father, but she didn't pay attention to him, and she asked him to tell him that information himself. At the university, Kimimaro met Hanabi and asked her about the news of her studies and the training she told him about. She told him that everything was fine and left quickly. Kimimaro then noticed that his colleague at work also seemed strange. Since he started looking at the financial district data, there were many statistics that gave negative readings about the future of humanity. The scene changed quickly, and Kimimaro saw his teacher, Ibara, standing on top of a building, so he immediately climbed up to him and asked him what he was trying to do. He told him that he had tried to get back his lost children who were taken as collateral for the future, and he thought of everything he could do to get them back. He even gave up his asset, and also lost all his research, and he couldn't find a way to get them back despite all that. He told him that he understood what he was saying very well, but he had to back away from the edge. But the teacher replied that he had decided to commit suicide. At the moment he was about to jump, Kimimaro grabbed his hand and threw him on the roof, and asked him if he was trying to sacrifice his life to get his children back. He told him that he had become miserable after his children disappeared. Even when he thought about his research, he couldn't find anything in his head. His path was completely dark and he couldn't focus on anything. He only realized now that Masakaki was right when he told him that he would take the future as collateral. He now felt like he had no future. Kimimaro told him that there was still time to do something. He would go to the financial district to find a solution to this dilemma. The scene changed quickly, and Kimimaro said that he would use a lot of Midas money, and then he would make a deal without wealth to spend. But this might make Mushu suffer a little. Mushu told him at that moment that she didn't mind helping him. She believed that he had reasons for that. She didn't mind, and she quickly asked him about his plan. He quickly summoned Masakaki, and told him that he wanted him to return the future to the entrepreneur Ibara who lost the deal to him. In return, he would pay him many times what he wanted, even 100 times, but he refused, and told him that unfortunately there was no such system in their world, and he didn't know why. Kimimaro asked him to take him to his boss, or the top leadership, and he would talk to them, but he refused, left him, and quickly went away. The scene suddenly changed, and Kimimaro was asking the information collector in the financial district about a way to restore the future of the losing people. He told him that everyone who tried to restore their future failed, but there was one way, which was compensation. If people died because of him, he had to pay compensation to their families. He believed that paying millions would be enough to compensate Ibara for his 3 missing children and his fetus, but Kimimaro replied that this wouldn't help him at all. On the other side, Mikuni was sitting next to his 6 sister's bed. As for Sato, she was watching the news somewhere, where the news announced that interest rates for currencies were rising in Singapore, and that affiliated stock prices were in free fall. In addition, there were still no suggestions for a rescue plan, the economic recession continued, and the officials responsible for the economy were still silent. Then Sato said, "So the East Asian region has reached its limits." In the financial district, someone was asking about Isarugi, who quickly arrived and apologized for the delay, saying that he had difficulty getting out. His colleague grumbled that he should have at least called them beforehand, because 1 minute of delay could hinder the whole plan. While Mikuni spoke and told him that he would not punish him for the delay currently, but he would demand compensation in his performance. Then Mikuni said, "The situation of the financial district of Southeast Asia is worse than they imagined, so he will raise the level of the defensive financial group to the next level. Every member of the guild will go out, and they will take the wealth from others." Then he gave him a paper with the names of those they would deal with from outside the guild, and they were the 3 strongest opponents, and each of them began to choose his opponent. The scene changed quickly, and Kimimaro went to look for teacher Ibra. One of the workers at the university told him that the funeral would be held at his home in Hokkaido. He began to repeat in surprise, "Funeral?" and he asked her what she meant, and she said that he died in a traffic accident yesterday. On the other hand, Hanabi was experiencing a state of depression and sadness, and she appeared in her house receiving messages from her students whom she taught at Kimura Yuna, Nagano Elementary School. Kimimaro then learned that Ibara collided with a driver, and the driver said that it was Ibara's fault because he ran a red light. After that, Kimimaro met the information collector. They quickly had a conversation about money, and Kimimaro asked him if he hadn't had enough of the money he had collected. He told him that he wanted to get as much money as possible, and advised him to be a trustworthy person, because if he became trustworthy, he could get money whenever he wanted. And he asked him why he bought the information, and Kimimaro replied that he needed it. And when he asked him why he didn't question the credibility of his information, he said because he got to know him through Mikuni. Kimimaro quickly returned to the financial district and burned all his money. Mushu was surprised, but she didn't object. At that moment, Sato told him that this wouldn't affect the financial district at all, and asked him that if he wanted to do something, he should act quickly, because the end of that country was imminent. And then he went to confront Mikuni and question his beliefs. In his opinion, the future is always there. Suddenly, he knew that Singapore would disappear, so Mikuni decided to implement the guild's plan and asked Kimimaro to just calm down and watch him. 3 hours ago, a private meeting was held at the IMF headquarters in Washington, D.C., where they discussed the drastic changes in the Southeast Asian stock market. It was confirmed that the country needed the financial district's resources because of the nation's recent economic depression. It was said that an entree had already managed to enter the financial district. Then the conversation shifted, and they talked about the Caribbean Republic in the Caribbean Sea, which disappeared due to the collapse of the North American financial district. The Lehman shock was the direct cause of its disappearance, and from this arose what is called copyright. 11 hours before that, Mikuni took out his card from Masakaki and told him he wanted to use it. He was informed that in return, 20 years would be taken from his future, but Mikuni didn't care. Somewhere, Sato was monitoring the Hong Kong index, which indicated that there were only 90 minutes left until C reached Japan. Stock trading had fallen to 32%, the Mumbai Stock Exchange had fallen to 48%, and the Singapore Stock Exchange had disappeared. On the other side, Mikuni was asking his colleagues if the investments were going as planned. One of them replied, "Things are going as planned, and he's taken precautions so that the source of the funds can't be traced." In Shanghai, the stock market decline continued. Mikuni soon met with one of his colleagues, who asked him how he got so much money. Mikuni's memories drifted back a little to 11 hours earlier, when he met someone and asked him to print a lot of money. There, Masakaki took him to get a closer look at the Midas press. It was soon announced that Tokyo trading was facing another day of falling prices. Despite the measures taken on the price index, deals plummeted in the morning. At that moment, Mikuni was asking his guild to buy all the stocks and save Japan and its companies as much as they could. Masakaki soon appeared and congratulated him, saying that he had indeed saved the the economy. The scene changed, and Sato was telling Kimimaro how Mikuni saved Japan, saying that he invested a huge amount of Midas money, and in return, years were taken from the future of this country. He asked her if the effects of C had been stopped as a result, but she wasn't sure, and said that no one knows the results of Mikuni's actions. After that, the scene shifted to Kimimaro, who was talking to the information broker, where he told him information about his father's asset, which was named Moa. When he showed him her picture, Mashu noticed that they looked alike, but he told her that the difference between them was that Moa had black hair and was very strong, and he informed her that she disappeared after his father was punished. When Kimimaro was surprised by the similarity, the information broker guessed, maybe this indicates that his future is similar to his father's. The scene changed, and Sato told him that this similarity indicates that he and his father have the same goal. He told her that this was just her guess, but she told him that at least it proves that his father loved him. Bankruptcy for an entrepreneur means harm to his family, so she is confident that he tried to avoid that harm by escaping from the district before his last deal. Since he is in the same place, he must be aware of the difficulties his father went through. Events unfolded quickly, and he went to visit his friend Hanabi, whose mother called her, and she immediately came down to meet him. When he asked her why she was frequently absent from university and not answering the phone, she said she was sick. Masakaki soon made a settlement to take 20 years from the future, just as he had agreed with Mikuni. Kimimaro suddenly found everything around him changed, and things began to disappear. He remembered that these were the results of what Mikuni had done, and he quickly went to Hanabi. He saw her curled up in her room. The scene changed quickly, and Kimimaro said, "The real world is going through something worse than the effects of C." She told him that it might be too late to protect those they had lost, but they could protect the rest, and she asked him to go with her to reclaim the future. In the financial district, Mikuni heard news that the strong pressure from the US dollar was causing other currencies to collapse. He said that America was trying to stop the effects of C by using other currencies around the world. He soon recognized one of the people in the news, an entrepreneur from the North American district. Therefore, he was sure that America's history is shared with the financial districts. Investors around the world are supporting America, but many countries have disappeared. The scene changed quickly, and Sato told Kimimaro that Mikuni was using printed Midas money again in the real world. He asked her if he could be stopped, because this was definitely the reason for taking the country's future, but she replied that it had been a few hours since Mikuni last used the card to print money, so she was planning to bankrupt him before his next use of the card. Then they could seize it and erase the future by reversing the card and returning the Midas money. Kimimaro told her that Mikuni was not an easy opponent, but she said that his weakness was money. The information broker said that they could use his money against him by making the yen's price drop, and then the Midas money, which depends on the yen, would become worthless, and thus his wealth would also vanish. The scene changed, and Isorogi said that he now had enough money to buy a city. He said of Mikuni and Sato that they were crazy because they didn't know how to spend money. His colleague told him that Mikuni had known about his betrayal beforehand. Sato soon challenged Mikuni to a deal, and Kimimaro also fought with a guild member and decided to hold out until Sato seized Mikuni's black card. Their fight intensified, and Mashu protected Kimimaro and bankrupted their opponent. On the other hand, the information broker was making a call to sell the information he possessed, while Sato began her deal against Mikuni. Moments later, the media circulated important news. The information broker began to wonder who would disappear first, the Midas Bank or Japan. As for Sato, she fell to the ground exhausted, saying that her strength had weakened so much that she couldn't reverse the card, because Mikuni's power exceeded all her expectations. She was finished. Mikuni asked her if she didn't want to win, but she told him that she just wanted to hinder him as much as possible. He told her that she was annoying, and she apologized for getting Kimimaro involved, then gave him her card and entrusted George, her asset, to him. Then Kimimaro got angry at Mikuni, saying that his logic was strange. He was using the future to protect the present, and he told him that this makes the asset suffer. Doesn't he care about his Q? He replied that if Q disappeared because of his actions, he would disappear with her, but he opposed him, saying that he no longer accepted his way of thinking. Soon, a guild member came to him and whispered something to him. He took out his black card and asked Masakaki to print money again. Then Kimimaro raged at him, saying that he would not allow him to control the future again. Mikuni told him that he was weak and could not stop him. Then Masakaki told Kimimaro, pointing to Sato's card in his hand, by using that card he can stop Mikuni. Kimimaro ordered him to execute. Mikuni asked Masakaki why he was inciting Kimimaro against him, and he told him that he was following the instructions of the higher leadership. The news soon announced that despite the price drop due to the effects of the financial crisis in the Far East, the situation had been brought under control and huge sums of money had been deposited in the country's banks, which was the reason for the sudden change in the yen. The scene changed after that, and Kimimaro and Mikuni stood facing each other. Masakaki said that they had an hour and the settlement would begin. The fight between them soon intensified. On the other hand, someone was informing the official that other countries had stopped their dealings with the Japanese yen. He replied that it seemed that the day had come when the strong currency would become weak, and asked him to prepare for the confrontation. And on the other hand, the fight was still going on, but suddenly Mikuni Mikuni said regretfully to Kimimaro that he thought he would become his successor. They are very similar, and it seems that their goal is the same, but the way is different. But Kimimaro didn't care about his words. Mikuni began to use his strongest weapons, and Kimimaro prepared for the confrontation. The ministry ordered a halt to all currency transfers and the non-acceptance of the Japanese yen, so people resorted to riots. On the other hand, Mikuni was telling Kimimaro that his sister wished that today would last forever, and this is the reason why he is holding on to the present, so that people can appreciate what they have, and not worry about an uncertain future. But he replied that because of him, people around him are disappearing, and no matter how much he searches, he can't find them. So what's the use of saving a person without a future? Things went south real fast. The yen became worthless, and so did Midas money, meaning the Far East district was about to vanish. Then, Masakaki Mikuni asked Kimimaro what he'd do after losing. Right then, Kimimaro asked Mikuni to reverse the Midas money card. Mikuni gave him the go-ahead. Kimimaro tossed the card, bringing back the future, and they each started saying goodbye to their assets.